Right, a very warm welcome to you all. It's a great pleasure to welcome you here to the webinar of the Big Five in partnership with EPC and MEED. Please allow me first of all to introduce myself. My name is Josine Heijmans and I'm the Vice President Construction at DMG Events, the organizer of the Big Five exhibition here in Dubai. We are very pleased to deliver this webinar to you today, and we really do this in proud partnership with the Engineering Expert Promotion Council and MEED projects. In the coming hour, really what we're aiming to do is to give you more detailed insights about the project developments in the Middle East and Africa, as well as a brief overview of what you can expect at the upcoming Big Five exhibition in Dubai this September. Please allow me now, first of all, to introduce to you the panelists with me on this call today. First of all, a very, very warm welcome to Mahesh Desai, who is the chairman of EEPC. Mahesh, welcome.
Thank you.
Also a very warm welcome to Govinder Singh, who is the director of exhibitions of EEPC. Very warm welcome, Govinder.
Thank you and good morning to everyone.
And also a very warm welcome to Ed James, Director of Content and Analysis of MEED Projects. Welcome, Ed.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here today, and I hope you'll find it useful.
Yes. So before passing on to the first speaker, may I kindly ask you any questions that you have to post those in the chat, as we will answer these at the end of the webinar. And also, please know that the slides that we are showing during this presentation will be shared with you afterwards, as well as the recording of this. So without further ado, if I now please may pass on to Mahesh Desai for the welcome note. Mahesh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Josine. Good morning to everybody. I welcome Mr. Edward James, Director of Content and Analysis, MEED Projects, Ms. Josine Heijmans, Vice President, Construction, DMG Events, officials from EPC India, Mr. Ann Comnet, Mr. Gurvinder Singh, and members from EPC India and all other participants. I am happy to note that we have gathered once again on the virtual platform to discuss the latest construction projects outlook for the GCC region and what to expect at the forthcoming edition of Big Five exhibition scheduled from 12th to 15th September 2021 in Dubai, UAE. A physical exhibition means indication towards resumption of people-to-people contact moving forward by getting over the worldwide pandemic. For more than 3 decades, the Big Five exhibition has gone from strength to strength to evolve into the largest, most influential and renowned portfolio of construction industry events spanning the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and East Africa. The Big Five network now brings the entire portfolio of building materials, construction products, and solutions together under one roof and includes more than 300,000 suppliers and buyers of construction products from 120 countries world over, continuing to evolve and expand into the new territories from its UAE origins to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, India, Indonesia, and East Africa. The portfolio has also hosted specialized events for the concrete, PMV, stone, HVAC, solar, glass, and facilities management sectors. India and UAE enjoy strong bonds of friendship founded on millennia-old cultural, religious, and economic interaction between the two regions. Indian businessmen and traders have contributed significantly to the economic fabric of UAE. In the fiscal year 2020-2021, UAE remained India's third largest market for Indian engineering exports, which stood at US dollar 3,148.62 million. India has made significant strides towards development of its engineering sectors, which has moved into Industry 4.0, that is smart engineering, and government is aiming at raising the share of India's manufacturing sector from 17% in GDP to 25%. We are confident that initiatives taken by EPC India, the torchbearer of Indian engineering abroad, would culminate in fruitful business initiation in this sector. Held annually, EPC India has been participating in Big Five exhibition for last many years by organizing an Indian pavilion and accommodating 45 to 50 exhibitors with the support from Department of Commerce, Government of India. This year also, EPC India plans to organize the India Pavilion, and a proposal has been submitted to the Department of Commerce, Government of India for their support. I hope the discussion during the webinar will be helpful for prospective exhibitors in evaluating the benefits of participating in this exhibition. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, Mahesh, for those kind words. If I now can pass on to you, Ed, to tell us a little bit more on the latest insights on the Middle East and Africa projects market, please.
Yes, thank you, Josine. Good morning again, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So I've got a quick 15-20 minute presentation, just giving a brief outlook of the projects market landscape in the Middle East and Africa regions. That's covering some 80 countries or so. Just to give you an idea of some of the emerging opportunities that there are, the size of the market, the future outlook, and so on. As Josine mentioned, this presentation is being recorded, so you'll be able to review it again later. The slides will also be made available to you. So if you don't catch everything today, don't worry, you'll get the opportunity to do so later. And at the end of this webinar as well, I'll be happy to take any questions that any of you might have. Okay, great. So before we look at the projects in detail, you might just want to know a little bit more about who I work for and what I'm doing on this webinar. So I work for MEED Projects. MEED Projects is an online project tracking platform, primarily for business development purposes, covering the Middle East Africa region. We're covering about 15,000 live projects at the moment. And this allows us to quantify what's happening in each sector and market and able to forecast what's going to happen over the next few years. If you want to know more, please go to meedprojects.com. Anyway, the data in this presentation is collected from our system and it's a bottom-up approach to the numbers. Okay, let's just look at the macroeconomic picture right now before we look into the projects data themselves. Now, of course, as we all know, last year was a pretty difficult year for the economies of the region, the major oil producers as well. However, according to the latest IMF data, most of the markets in the region, and in fact globally actually, are expected to see a strong rebound in 2021, this year. And that obviously provides some optimism to return to normality. And it's a similar picture for Africa, maybe even stronger because of the booming economies there. So from a macroeconomic perspective, which of course is always important when looking at things like economic activity and projects market development, we've actually got quite a much more positive picture halfway through 2021 and going into 2022 than we did, of course, last year due to the pandemic. So things are returning to normality. We had some bumps on the road, but more or less with vaccinations ongoing, we're looking good. Right, so we're just on the back of that. So of course, 2020 was a bit of a difficult year, as you might expect. But here I'm basically giving an idea of the size of the Middle East and Africa projects market historically. So we've got between 2010 and 2019, an average of about $250 billion worth of projects or contracts awarded across all sectors in the Middle East and Africa and EMEA region. And okay, so last year we did have that fall, as we would expect, about 40% fall, but the market is rebounding quickly, and a lot of the backlog from 2020 is now being awarded in 2021 and 2022 in the next few years. But you can see here that the market is big. It's diversified across different countries and sectors. It offers a very significant opportunity for international suppliers, contractors, consultants, and so forth, who can benefit and take advantage of this fast-growing opportunity. Now, in terms of the actual size of each market, as you can see here, we've had some markets work more affected than others. In the MENA region, you can see Saudi Arabia, UAE quite badly affected, but that also means that they're going to rebound quite strongly. A very booming market right now is Egypt, Algeria, Oman, Qatar. These are growing markets which are growing quite strong. But clearly last year was a fairly difficult year for projects in the MEA region, and as we saw in the previous slide. But we can still see that countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE still have nearly $20 billion worth of contracts awarded each year. So they're still significant. And in terms of sector opportunities, well, construction was probably the worst hit market last year. I mean, that's down to that's buildings, villas, offices, towers, hotels, malls, and so on. But we actually saw growth in some key sectors. The transport market grew. That's roads, airports, railways, ports, and so forth. Power sector also grew. We're looking at, for example, renewable energies. We're looking at thermal power plants, hydropower plants, and so forth. Water sector as well, showing good, strong growth in the region. So it's not necessarily a picture for every country and every sector that last year was down. Actually, in some countries, as we saw, and some markets and sectors, the market actually went up last year. So it's important not to generalize about the market in 2020. Now, let's take that data and just look at the some of the significant projects currently underway in the MEA region. So you get an idea of some of these significant projects, just to give you a flavor of what's actually out there underway at the moment. So we've got new refineries, we've got metro lines, we've got massive hydroelectric projects, we've got airport terminals, we've got railways, ports, alumina refineries, and so on. Of course, so we've got a lot of very interesting projects. These are just some of the larger ones, but of course, we've also got in the construction side a large number of hotels, malls, affordable housing projects across the continent of Africa and the Middle East region. This is just to give you an idea of some of the actual projects currently underway. Now, I thought it would be interesting for you to look at who are some of the biggest Indian companies active in MEA at the moment, and you can see that there's a lot of there's two that stand out in particular. There's Larsen and Trubro, sure very well name for you, and Shaporji, Palonji as well, Afcons in third place. KC, Rabag, Kalpataru also quite active, as is Sterling and Wilson on the solar side. So that you can see that there are a number of very active Indian companies working at the moment in MEA. Larsen Trubro is probably the most famous and well known and active. Shaporji more on the construction side, and Afcons on the infrastructure side. But you can see that there's opportunities, and there have been opportunities for Indian firms in the market. In terms of some of the projects that Indian firms are doing, again, here you are, gives you an idea of some of the projects actually won and under execution at the moment by Indian firms. You can see here projects ranging from the Riyadh Metro, the transmission phase 13 project in Qatar, Aramco projects. We've got railway lines in Africa. We've got a range of different projects. Sabik new headquarters for Shaporji, mining projects, hospital expansion. So you can see that there's a wide variety and diverse mix of both countries and sectors in which Indian firms are involved. So whatever the country in MEA, whatever the sector, even the size of the project, Indian firms have opportunities and have managed to succeed in the market. And of course, where there are Indian contractors, then obviously opportunities as well for the India supply chain from Indian companies. And of course, this is not just limited to projects won by Indian contractors. For generally across the market, there is a huge openness for the supply chain from India and indeed other countries globally. Now, just in terms of the top clients currently in the Middle East Africa region, we've got the largest client by a long way is the Public Investment Fund in Saudi Arabia. So you may know or have heard of some of its largest projects. We've got the NEOM scheme, which is a brand new city in Saudi Arabia. We've got various tourism projects in the kingdom as well. And it's by far and away the most ambitious and largest client going forward. We've also got affordable housing projects in Iraq under the Ministry of Construction and Housing, huge demand for housing projects there. Saudi Aramco, who I'm sure you're all aware of, the largest oil and gas company in the world. Then we've got some UAE entities, Emaar, Dubai Holding, in terms of real estate. As you can see, Egypt as well, again, affordable housing projects. And you can see all the way down, we've got the Russian nuclear program in Egypt, we've got Lagos state government from Nigeria, ESCOM, the power plant utilities agency in South Africa, the Road Development Agency in Zambia, and so on. So we've got a really diverse mix of clients, some government, some independent, some private sector, and all of them across different markets and subsectors as well. So looking forward, what's the main driver of projects in MEA? Well, I think it's similar, fairly similar to the Indian projects market. First of all, you've got quite high population growth, and when you've got high population growth driving, it drives the demand for power and water facilities. It drives the demand for social infrastructure, such as affordable housing, schools, hospitals, transport projects as well. So it's a very key issue, the high population growth. We've also got, for the main, we've got very fast growing economies in part due to this high population growth, particularly in Africa, got really fast growing economies. And of course, when you've got fast growing economies, you've also got fast growing projects activity as well. Likewise, we've got a lack of infrastructure in many places, aging infrastructure as well. And so there is a huge amount of money going into building roads, water treatment plants, airports, and so on to help improve this infrastructure and access to more remote areas. We've also got long-term government visions like the Saudi 2030 vision, which helps create a framework for projects development. These are pretty critical for understanding where the investments are going to be and where. We've got, particularly in Africa, World Bank, African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, financing of projects. And if we look at some of the big projects in Africa, many of them have got International Development Bank support, which is great because it provides some clarity and transparency on that procurement process. Clearly, we've got the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, which is helping drive investment, particularly into Africa. And this is able to benefit all companies across the world because it does involve a lot of financing and growth of the project market. And then finally, of course, strong economic and population growth means there's to be a big investment, significant investment in power and water facilities, which also helps drive those particular segments. So in terms of the outlook for this year, so we saw that 2020 was a bit difficult. However, I did mention that the market is going to rebound this year. And indeed, we can see that by the value of projects currently out to bid in tender in each market. You can see here, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, UAE, Iraq, South Africa, Egypt are going to be some of the biggest markets this year in terms of projects out to bid. We're going to rebound quite nicely back to more than $200 billion of contract activity this year. And so this just stresses and emphasizes the strength of the MEA projects market. And here you get an idea of what some of the largest markets will be this year. And then in terms of the global context, in terms of the size of the MEA market compared with other global segments, you can see here how the Middle East and Africa areas are quite a significant chunk of the global construction output. So close to $1 trillion worth of output in the construction segment in the sub-Saharan Middle East, North Africa regions, and provides and you can see here how fast the anticipated growth is for these markets. So probably the in terms of Middle East and Africa, probably the two fastest growing segments of all the global construction outlook geographies. And then let's take a look at the long-term pipeline for the MEA states. As I said, there are more than 80 countries in the region, Middle East and Africa region. And you can see here that there are more than $5.2 trillion worth of known, planned, and unawarded projects in those 80 countries. Saudi Arabia is by far and away the largest single market, $1.2 trillion. Then we've got the UAE at nearly $700 billion, Egypt at more than $400 billion, Nigeria, again, $400 billion, Iraq, more than $300 billion. And then these other markets, they might look small compared to Saudi Arabia, but they're still markets of above $100 billion worth of known, planned, and unawarded projects, which are open to international contractors and suppliers. And you can see many different markets are very significant, whether that's Angola, Tanzania, South Africa. And they all need international companies to come in and help achieve these very ambitious totals. The markets are open for international companies. We've seen that Indian contractors have been successful. We know that Indian suppliers are very active in the region. And so the vast majority of this $5.2 trillion of known future projects is very open and to Indian supply chain. In terms of the actual breakdown of this $5.2 trillion into individual sectors, well, you can see here that the largest single future sector is construction, maybe more than $2.2 trillion of projects. Again, that's affordable housing, offices, malls, hotels, tourism projects, schools, hospitals, and so on. We then got transport projects, particularly in roads, airports, ports, and so forth. Power projects, that's power generation facilities, hydropower, nuclear, renewable energies, and so on, as well as transmission and distribution. We've got oil and gas, nearly $1 trillion combined worth of future projects there. And then industrial, petrochemicals, and water, still more than $200 billion each in those three segments. So again, all sectors of the projects market have more than $100 billion of projects, known projects planned in the MEA region. In terms of the top future clients, well, we've got, again, a broad mix of companies across different sectors and markets. We've got the nuclear energy program in Saudi Arabia. We've got the renewable energy program in Algeria. We've got oil and gas projects in Saudi Arabia. We've got Egyptian real estate projects. We've got power projects in South Africa. We've got housing projects in Kuwait, and so on. And we were talking earlier about Iran. Iranian market might well open up over the next few months. When sanctions are lifted, that's going to be a big opportunity for everyone as well. So we've got a large diversified mix of future clients across different sectors as well. This gives you an idea of who they are. Again, we saw earlier projects under execution in terms of what they are. Here we've got the projects currently out to bid. So unawarded projects coming up, and you can see here a broad mix of very interesting projects. We've got oil and gas schemes in Nigeria and Qatar. We've got refineries, we've got hospital projects, we've got pipelines, we've got desalination plants, renewable energy facilities, and so on. So we've got some really big projects currently out to bid in the market. Longer term, in terms of those study projects under planning and study, again, even more diverse mix of projects, huge values, huge big projects coming up across different countries. We've got railways, you can see here, gas processing plants, petrochemicals, we've got affordable housing projects, airports, you name it. Across different segments and countries, we've got a very large, significant opportunity. And you can get an idea of what those projects are here. And then finally, just in terms of some observations and notes for Indian companies, we've got, as I've already said, the region has always required international companies, international supply chain. And if you had any doubt about that, well, you can just see that, you know, the successes by companies like Larsen & Toubro, Shapoorji Afghans, Kalpataru, KEC, and so on. So you can see that there is definitely opportunities for Indian companies, as has been proved before. Firms which can bring some sort of finance with them as well would be particularly successful, because that is an area which is, there is a bit of difficulty at the moment of financing projects. So Indian companies that can bring finance with them will certainly be successful. I think also, just as when looking at individual projects, because we are looking at lots of projects over lots of markets, then it's worth looking at projects with lower risk, where there are competitive advantages to be gained. So if you say look at Larsen & Toubro, looking at specific segments like railway projects, hydropower schemes, renewable energy projects, which Sterling & Wilson's been very successful on, petrochemicals, and so forth, where Indian companies have great experience and can bring a lot of expertise into. It's also worth noting that now, particularly in the oil and gas sector, there is a lot of focus on local content, in-country value. So Indian firms need to make sure that they are well established, the right local partner, focus also on localization and knowledge transfer in order to take advantage of that opportunity. Another big area of growth is PPP projects market, the public-private partnership projects, when companies come in, develop and finance and operate projects. This is a very fast-growing segment in MEA, and Indian firms have a big advantage there from their experience in India, and can come in and really be very successful in these areas. We're talking earlier about Iran and markets where the markets are, geographies where the markets are opening up, where there might be less competition. Countries like Iraq, Algeria, Iran as well, for example, lots of countries in Africa, where there is fewer big international companies present, then these have a big opportunity here to be successful as well. And then finally, choosing the right local partner and agent is a critical success factor for any company looking to come in and do business, particularly in the Middle East region. And so choosing and selecting that right partner is obviously critical as well, as is face-to-face contact with clients and suppliers and the supply chain in general. It's really important in the Middle East Africa to build the relationships, and it can't always easily be done from afar. And that's why it's important to these exhibitions and events like the Big Five are important, because it's really critical to be able to meet companies face to face, know your customer, and show them your products directly in order to be able to understand them, their requirements, their needs, and to build that relationship and trust. So it's those critical events like the Big Five, which are the perfect opportunity to meet many customers face to face at once in one location. So that brings me to the end of that. I wish you all the very best of luck in your growth ambitions in the MEA region. You can see that it's a very large opportunity, very significant one, very fast growing one. And if you do have any questions about anything I've spoken about today, please ask them at the end of this webinar, submit them in the Q&A box, or alternatively, you've got my email address here and you can get in touch with me. Okay, so that brings me to the end of that. I'm going to pass you all back over to Josine, who has a few more words to share. Thank you, everyone. I think you're on mute, Josine. Josine, are you there?
Josine is just experiencing a technical issue.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, I'll tell you what. If anyone's got any questions,
here. Yes,
I'll take them now.
Yeah.
Just also clarify, please, everyone, that this presentation is being recorded. So if you wanted to, again, to just clarify anything on the presentation I just gave, or if you have any questions or needed to look at it again, the slides will be made available and the recording will be made available, so you'll be able to check it in your own time. Are there any questions anyone has got about some of the data or presented
Ed, can you hear me? Yeah. Hello? Ed?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we have some questions. We have a question. Can I get more information for the Middle East and Africa market for supplying goods of marble and granite from India?
Yes, certainly. So as you can see, there is a significant amount of growth in the MEA market, and particularly in the hotels, housing, and office segments. And as we saw, the construction segment in particular is the largest single sector, more than $2 trillion of future projects. And there is a huge amount of requirement for marble and stone product. I've done some presentations in the past about stone and granite markets. There isn't any sort of great marble production in MEA, but it's mainly because the geology is not right. So a lot of the marble has to be imported from places like Brazil, Italy, Turkey, China, and of course, India. So there's a very significant opportunity for marble. For granite, there is some stone mining and manufacturing in places like UAE and Ras Al Khaimah, and a lot of ceramic production there. But generally speaking, also stone products also have to be imported. So just looking at that future pipeline, there is going to be very significant growth for the two products, and most of it has to be imported. So very significant opportunities. It is a competitive environment, but there is more than enough work to go round. So I would definitely recommend looking at the market very closely. And there's no better place where to demonstrate or highlight your product and samples than at somewhere like the Big Five, where you have a lot of the big stakeholders and clients looking for new products and high quality products which they can use on their projects.
Okay, we
Josine,
have Josine back. We'll
Yeah,
continue
so
questions afterwards. Yeah.
I'll pass you back to Josine. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. We see even after so many webinars, still things can go wrong on the technological side. So thank you so much, Ed, for taking us through those insights on the Middle East and African market. Before coming back to some more questions, I also now would like to take this opportunity to share with you some more details of what you can expect at the upcoming Big Five this year. Can you see my screen? Sorry, if I can ask.
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Yes,
all right.
Can.
So Big Five, of course, is coming up very soon, this September from 12th to 15th. And I think we are absolutely very privileged in the situation where we are, that we will be possibly one of the only global construction events being able to run live in person this year. I think, of course, a very big thanks has to be said also to UAE government and Dubai government in the way how they have been able to handle the pandemic till date and allow the country to stay open as a hub for connecting countries from across the world. As mentioned by the introduction as well, I mean, Big Five is around for a very long time. I mean, we have been running for more than 4 decades, and really in those 40 years or over 40 years, you know, the event has developed and grown into a place where the global construction community comes together and to really explore these opportunities in the Middle East and Africa market that Ed was talking about. I mean, companies come here to find new partners in different territories. They come here to sell their products, but of course they also come here to meet with friends, with peers, and to discuss also what's happening in the industry, because we are not just an event where people come and to demonstrate their products and services, but there is also so much more happening at the event, and I will explain a little bit more on that as well. I mean, in the years that Big Five is around, I mean, it has really grown into one of the largest construction events worldwide. The numbers that you see here are 2019 numbers, but in that edition we had exhibitors from 64 countries. We had over 2,500 exhibitors, and we had attendance from over 132 countries across the world. Of course, we expect not exactly the same numbers under the current circumstances. However, that said, you know, we are at the moment in the phase of welcoming again a lot of the international country pavilions that have been with us all the time. And as we speak, of course, we are working very closely with EEPC to see how also we can again host India Pavilion as well at the show. Big Five covers really a very broad range of the construction cycle. I mean, within Big Five, we have 6 dedicated product sectors, making it really easy also for the attendees visiting the event to navigate the show floor. But in addition to these 6 product sectors, we have some niche specialized events cater to the various stations in the construction cycle and even beyond the construction cycle, to really deliver all the insights and product updates that the industry requires. As I mentioned, it's not just about product displays and services. Yes, that is a very important part of the event, but it's also a place where we really have discussions to drive the industry forward. And so we have, for example, specifically catered towards leadership roles within the construction businesses. We, for example, host the Global Construction Leaders Summit. We have a summit fully dedicated towards the development of technologies, how technologies are playing a key change in the construction sector. Similarly, there is a very specific focus on technology in the event. We have, for the first time, a dedicated area on the show floor for new technologies, which is called Digital Construction World. And we also have a startup section as well, where we kind of welcome small startup companies disrupting the sector. But there is also room for more networking and celebrating as well. I mean, for the first edition, we will be hosting the Big 5 Impact Awards, which will be very much around sustainability, new technologies, and celebration of how project owners or even manufacturers have played a role in these projects. There is also a dedicated focus for diversity inclusion in our Women in Construction Forum and Awards as well. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I mean, there will be dedicated industry talks around a very broad range of topics where people also can have a presence, and even where also some of our exhibitors do get involved because they really would like to explain in more detail through thought leadership, what they can add to the projects out there in the region. So who traditionally would you meet in the Big 5? Of course, we do have manufacturers visiting, but a very big chunk you would be looking for agents, distributors from the regions, from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, also from many of the African countries. We have contractors, engineering firms, consultancies, architecture firms, governments will be there. And so you will also find here just a snapshot of some of the job titles that traditionally would be visiting the Big 5. And that's really from the C-level to director level, also to project managers, site managers, purchasing managers, all across the board. Where do our visitors traditionally come from? They come from all around the world, but of course, because the focus is very much around the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia region, we tend to get a very big chunk of our footfall, especially from there. So 65% comes from the GCC countries. Of course, UAE is quite a big portion in that as well. But for example, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, these are all key visiting countries at the Big 5. But also we get quite a good amount of visitors from the African countries as well. Because I mean, I think also Ed just highlighted some of these new markets opening up there, and we really attract quite some more visitors from that region. New this year at the Big 5 is an online component. I think, of course, since the last edition in 2019, the world has quite changed a bit, and I think also as organizers of event, we have realized that probably we also need to relook at our proposition, how we can even add more value for the exhibitors and visitors that are part of the Big Five. So we have complemented the live in-person proposition with an online component, and this really should help you kind of to get more and better value out of the event, because you would be able in advance to see who is going there, so you can set up meetings. What also this online portal will do is actually giving you the opportunity to not just only meet during those 4 days, but over an extended period of time. So actually in November, we would in this online platform come back again with some reconnection days as well. So even if you are again part of these 4 days at the Dubai World Trade Center, there is another opportunity again for you to follow up on the leads that you made, to reconnect with some of those contacts made, because we all know, you know, business is not just done in this short time frame, right? You need to stay in touch with the people that you met. You need to reconnect again, pick up conversations. So we really hope that with the online offering, we can further support the industry to stay in touch longer and for an extended period of time. Of course, we also are aware that, of course, by running a live event, we have to make sure that we can absolutely do that safety, because safety of the participants is our first priority. So, and also in very close cooperation with Dubai World Trade Center and with also our own DMG All Secure protocol in place, we have a lot of additional safety measures taken. So you will see when you come at the event, there will be wider aisles. Some aisles potentially will have to be one-way direction. There is much more cleaning. Some of our summit theaters will be more spaced out. You know, masks, of course, have to be worn at all time. So lots of efforts taken to make sure that people can attend events safely. At the moment, just to give you a little bit of flavor, there is running a very large exhibition for the health sector in Dubai, and actually this is one of the many events that have already happened in the past weeks and months. We actually, Dubai started with events in December last year with AI everything. But it's really great to see. I mean, these are big shows where, you know, because of the spacing out, we are able to welcome international exhibitors, and also visitors feel confident to be part of these events. I mean, there's a good buzz and flow of visitors in the halls. So just to close off, so how can you be part of the Big Five this year? As mentioned in the beginning by Mahesh, EPC is at the moment working on putting a pavilion package together, are asking for the funding from the government. So we hope very soon that we will be able to share more details on that. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to EPC. But of course, we also work very proudly together with Exhibition India Group, Commandant Exhibitions in India, who is our official representative. And so please do reach out to Amit. I copied his contact details here if you have any questions around participation of the Big Five. And in the slide deck, which will be provided to you after this presentation, as will be the recording, you can also find my details. So please feel always free to reach out to any of us with your questions. So I would like to leave it here and give some more time and room for any further questions to be addressed. Eleni?
So we have another question for Ed. I would like to know about the business prospects of rubber ceilings. Rubber gaskets like Titan gaskets, MJ gaskets used for portable water distribution systems. Is there any prospect of this in the Middle East and Africa? Can you shed some light?
Well, as we, okay, so I'm not a specialist in this area, but as we know from Okay, I mean, I know I saw a similar question earlier about the HVAC market and Indian companies there. So someone like Voltas is very active in district cooling and HVAC systems, certainly in the GCC. So there are plenty of precedents for Indian companies to be successful. In terms of individual products, but this goes back to whether it's flanges, valves, sealants, seals, construction chemical materials, stone and marble, and so forth. There's always an opportunity for companies with quality products to come and supply their products to projects in Africa and the Middle East and GCC. It's important, as with all these things, to make sure that you're on the vendor list and to be specified by the consultants, and just also to be known as a potential source of opportunity by procurement managers everywhere. So as a first step, obviously you need the data to be able to know which market is to target, which market is the most open, which market has the biggest potential. So you would need to use that data like we just saw for MEED projects to be able to identify those markets. And then it's a case of choosing the right partner, choosing the right agent locally, and then of course choosing the right channel for how to distribute or sell your products, how to meet the consultants and the clients and let the contractors know about the various products that you sell. I mean, that's regardless of the products. So again, it's something like this. It's not easy to do, right? It's not easy to do for internationally. So again, an event like the Big Five, an exhibition and conference like the Big Five allows you to demonstrate and show directly to all these thousands of stakeholders who are wandering around the event trying to find new sources and of product. It's a great opportunity to do that face-to-face interaction, show your products and so forth in the different specialized sections. So that just as an outsider for this is it's a great way to meet people and to get to know who these consultants are, get their details, their contacts, and then make sure you're specified on the vendor list for them. But there's no particular reason why Indian companies cannot supply their products into the Middle East Africa region. It's an open market. There is not so substantial regional production for many products, and it's as a first step, it's about that data gathering, market intelligence, and attending events like this, and then the world is open to you. Market's open to you.
We have a question for Josine. Someone has said they want to participate in the Big Five this year. So what are the next steps? How can they get involved?
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend to get in touch with our agent in India, our representative, Comnet. The details will be in the slide deck, which we will provide after this. And they absolutely have all the details to help you further with the participation.
Ed, another one for you. Growth projections in the UAE in 2022 after Expo 2021 and Qatar in 2023 after FIFA 2022. Do you have any insights on this?
Yeah, this is a question I get asked quite a lot. What's going to happen after the Expo in UAE? What's going to be the main driver of project development? And I think, first of all, the UAE market is very much one driven by real estate, particularly in Dubai. And we've seen prices start to increase and demand start to rise this year after it's been a couple of difficult years. So we are going to see more projects there. The Expo itself was only ever a small component of that. Of course, when it ends next year, there will be a lot of reconfiguration of the site for a longer term basis for housing, more retail and commercial and so forth. And indeed, a lot of hub of activity will move there. In terms of the market afterwards, I mean, as I said, the real estate market is growing again. Demand is increasing. So, whether or not the Expo ends or what the opportunities are afterwards, the market will still be relatively strong. Qatar is interesting. There's been a huge amount of spending in Qatar the last 2 or 3 years in preparation for the World Cup. And the big LNG program that was awarded earlier this year is going to, for the whole market, is going to create a very big economic boom and a very fast growing opportunities there, whether it's retail, tourism, housing, and so forth. So I'm very optimistic about the Qatar projects market as well. And all nations in the Middle East, GCC, we're looking at big sporting events, whether that's the Rugby World Cup, cricketing events, big exhibitions, and even the Olympic Games maybe in the 2030s. So everyone is looking at these big events to stimulate growth in the market, to provide some impetus. And the end of the Expo and the World Cup will just be the beginning of more and more events to come in the region.
Josine, can we still confirm participation with the worry of having a third wave and travel restrictions?
Yes, you can. I think at the moment times are really uncertain. Like I said, I mean, we are working with individual clients, with pavilion organizers to be as flexible as we can possibly be. So, for example, we also discussed this with EEPC. If there would be restrictions of traveling and for whatever reason it's impossible to attend live in person, we will have also possibilities for either just attending online, or even what we offer for some countries is kind of a hosted package option. However, I think at the moment we are still really aiming to that the situation is going to change before September, and the travel arrangements will be open. But like I said, I mean, we're working with all different stakeholders to be as flexible as we can possibly be to get you involved in the Big Five this year.
The relations with Qatar have returned. Can we expect visitors from this region? I think that's to you, Josine.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, I think it is a very positive step, of course, that the relations with Qatar have opened up again. We also see this in the initial registration. I mean, we are not fully live at Reg yet, but people are already registering their interest. And we have always had a strong footfall from Qatari companies. So yes, I absolutely would expect visitors from Qatar also at the Big Five this year.
Okay, I think we have time for one more. Ed, there are anti-dumping duties on Indian ceramics in the GCC. Any insights on this, if possible?
Well, thanks for the question. Again, I'm not particularly expert on this area, but GCC is just one of the aspects we touched on today. We're talking about also 54 countries in Africa as well, which have their own opportunities. Look, I mean, if we look at ceramics in particular, obviously we've got someone like RAK Ceramics, which is a very major player in the ceramics industry. But whenever I look at ceramics in the region, I see many international manufacturers of ceramic active here. And I think it's fair to say that most clients and buyers in the region are looking for quality products at a right price, and that doesn't always mean you haven't taking regional products. They're looking at big international products as well. So of course there are always sort of regulations and rules about some imports, but again, getting on the vendor list, getting specified, and bidding for projects on an equal playing field is going to provide opportunities. So there's thousands of hotels and malls and houses, offices being built over the region. We can see population growth is very high. There's certainly going to be a big demand for ceramics from wherever they are in the world. I can't talk specifically about anti-dumping rules or anything like that, but the market demand is going to be high, and there will be ability to sell products on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the time we have. Over to you, Josine.
All right, so before thanking all of our audience, please allow me to say a very special thanks to our speakers today, to Mahesh, to Govinder, Edward, and of course EUPC and MEED projects for the support. Many questions could already be addressed, but if you still have any more questions which have come to mind, you know, during the webinar, which haven't been answered yet, as I said, the details will be in the materials that will be shared with us. So please feel free to reach out to us and address those questions. So a very special thanks to you all for dialing in today. I look forward to welcome you at the Big Five this September, if travel allows. And in the meantime, stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.